Hi there, welcome to Dad Guide. I'm Cooper, and today we are talking about cruising and what cruise in particular. We're talking about the Norwegian Prima. Is it family friendly? So overall, we just got back from an 8-day cruise on this ship. Absolutely enjoyed our experience as parents, but I'll get into some of the things that, depending on what age your child is, what they're going to enjoy on this cruise ship, the different options that are there for them. And to top it off, we'll start with the go-kart. So the go-kart track is definitely good for all ages. Once you're tall enough to ride, it's a lot of fun. We enjoyed it. It's $15 for a regular ride, a race. You get about 8 laps, and $20 for you and the track. So on the you and the track, they take away some of the speed limits, and you can go as fast as the karts are able to. For the requirements to ride in the go-karts, you have to be basically 4 feet tall. 55 inches was the minimum height to do the go-kart. So not overly tall. You can definitely ride it from a fairly young age. You just have to have the ability to drive. I don't need to have a driver's license. I know we saw lots of different younger kids driving it, and they were having a lot of fun. There was one girl in line with me the one day. She had the package, so you can pay for basically $200 for the week, and you can go on as many times as you want. And it was about halfway through the cruise, and she had already done it 30 times. So definitely she was loving it, and you get your money's worth if you do a package like that. The other things I want to talk about are the 2 dry slides. So you have the drop and you have rush. So rush is basically 2 slides where you compete against another person and you go down, and they spin multiple times throughout the entire side of the ship. They're pretty quick. I was surprised with how quick they were. Definitely make you a little dizzy, but a lot of fun. And the height requirement for them was about 48 inches. So in the same ballpark as go-karts, but definitely a little bit easier for younger kids to be able to ride on them. Same height requirements on the drop. The drop is a little slower. It may seem more intimidating, but a lot of people do get stuck and then they have to wiggle out. So it's not as fast as the rush. I know the rush, we saw some people that would come out the bottom kind of flying in onto the ground. It was pretty funny. I did it a couple times, both of them, and they are fun. And then you have the water slide up top. It basically connects to the splash pad. You go up one more set of stairs and you have that, and then you can come back up to the splash pad once you go down the wave. The wave is a lot of fun. It's a short slide. You go on a tube. It's a lot of fun though. The drop, you get a good sensation, and then you go up the wall and you come back down. One thing I love about this ship is there's definitely a lot of families on it, but it's not overwhelming, so you're never waiting in line with your kids for too long to ride any of these rides. The go-karts, for example, you do have to book your time slot, but very rarely were time slots booked for the day in advance. So I know one time it was mid-cruise, and it was about 5 o'clock, and we were like, hey, let's just see if we can go for a drive right around 6:30, and we could. So that was awesome. The stuff that's more tailored to kids doesn't get used as much. There was one child on the wave, older than our son, but they was pretty much running in circles and doing the water slide, and he never had to wait. It's kind of cool. So even though the slide's not as long, you don't have to wait as long to use them. So that's awesome. Another thing you have is the splash pad. So the splash pad is definitely catered for more younger kids. It opened at about 10 o'clock most days. And our son did like it. It's not a giant splash pad. It's not. It doesn't have a lot of different features. It's kind of appealing. Like, it looks really nice. But kids did seem to use it for an hour or two, and then they kind of would move on. So it is there, and your kid will like it, but it's not something that they might want to do 24/7. Another thing you have is the Splash Academy. So this is kind of where you can drop your kid off for the day or for an hour or so, and you can go out and go for dinner or something like that and come pick them up. So there's basically 2 different time slots. Your kid does have to be 3 or older and potty trained to be in the Splash Academy. They have different things available. You have video games, arts and crafts. There'll be scavenger hunts. Just really depends on the age group, but it is a nice thing to see there. And then at nighttime, depending on what day, you can book in advance dropping your kids off. You do pay an hourly charge for this service, and they'll watch it for like dinners, for example. And they do have another thing called Guppy Time. So if your kid's under 3, you can take them. It is like parent supervised. You can play with some of the things there and interact. Like, your child can interact with other kids. That is an option. It's not available all the time. They pretty much tell you on your itinerary when you can do it. And so if it's something that you're interested in, you have to do plan in advance to make sure that you can take your child down at that time. The other thing I really want to note for this cruise is the staff was amazing with children. Our room attendant, she was constantly saying hi to her son. He loved her. He'd give her fish stickers that he'd pick up at port, different things. So definitely well-trained staff, and you could tell that they like seeing families. Because like I said, there wasn't a ton of families on the ship, so when they did see kids, they would give them the best service they possibly could, which was really nice. Especially at some of the restaurants, like the local, we would often go there for breakfast, and they knew our son's name off by heart, and the second they saw him, they were waving, they were excited, and he liked to see them. He would say hi. Overall, I definitely would recommend this cruise ship for families. You have to keep in mind that this ship strikes more of a balance between adults and families, and I would say it's a little bit more geared toward adults, but there is enough stuff if you're doing a week cruise that your child's going to be happy. The other thing you have to remember that they have is the Galaxy Pavilion, and this is more VR video game, so it's not so much young kids that are going to enjoy this. It's more of older children, because there are some height restrictions on that as well. But overall, that was still really nice. And you had the two different games rooms up on the 17th deck or the 18th deck. You have the mini putt. The mini putt is really nice. There's no age restrictions on that. Kids can come and go, play. It's complimentary, so you're not paying for that at all unless you want to pay to win prizes. You can try that. That was not working when we were there, so it was all just complimentary. But our son, he's too young for mini putt, but he would enjoy just walking up and hitting the ball around and just playing with it. And on the opposite side, you have the different games. So you got ping pong, foosball, shuffleboard, pickleball. There's a lot of different ones. There's that soccer game you can play. I always saw most of the kids in this section, so they were almost always there playing. But it was never packed. You very rarely had to wait for anything other than pickleball, because that was the only one that was a little limited. But you could almost always just walk up and play a game. So for young teenagers, they're going to enjoy this just because it's a good spot for them to hang out and play. So overall, I definitely like the Norwegian Prima. I do think it's a good ship for families. There's different things that are a little bit trickier. There's not a ton of pool space. You do have the infinity pools lower with there's the beds in the small, the water is about 10 inches deep. Our son absolutely loved this. We spent a lot of time trying to get these chairs, but they're not easy to get. But when he did have them, we would take up a couple beds with all the people we were traveling with, and he could walk in the little water along the side, play with his cars in it, and he really enjoyed that. That was one of his favorite things to do. So there's definitely a lot of stuff on this ship for families. I enjoyed it. We had a great time. Everybody we traveled with had a really good time. So I would definitely recommend the Norwegian Prima. If you're thinking about booking it and you don't think it has enough stuff for families, it probably does. There are other cruise ships that definitely have way more, but this is still a fun ship. We really enjoyed our time with our son. So if you've enjoyed this video, please leave a like, please subscribe, and we'll see you next time.